No, I didn't do a good job of it.
Well,
Hi. Okay, people are on while I'm setting up. Yay!
how can you tell?
Because I see them on, and I just want
What
to.
do you mean you see them?
I see them on. I'm so excited. Yes. So there we go. I just want to pan in. So. All right, D, how's it look? Are you on there?
I can't, I don't know how to get on.
My producer's in here. Okay,
Yeah,
give me
right.
1 second.
It's okay. I don't know how to do shit you don't have time for.
Let's go to the page and then I'm gonna go to the live up in the corner. There we go.
Oh, oh,
Oh.
I see you.
Hi, everybody. Okay, here's the other thing, Dee, that I might need you to do is to monitor the comments there on here.
Okay.
Because I'm going to, at some point, I'm gonna be curious if people have questions. How's the lighting? Is the lighting okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. All right, I think we are ready. I can't believe this day is here, although it's not the official, it's kind of the official because the baby is almost ready to be birthed. So this is like the class where we're really getting ready for it. I'm Monica Cost. I am the founder of the Good Old Girls Network, an organization whose sole mission is to nourish the journey to fulfillment for women. That's what we're doing. We are putting in all the good stuff to help women live more fulfilled lives. Why is that important? We are burnt out. We're exhausted. We are living too much into what we have to do, what expectations are of us, what we should do, and we haven't really gotten a full grip on who we are and most importantly, why we do what we do, which was why day one for today was about clarity and having you to look at the various aspects of your life physically, emotionally, parentally, if it's applicable, financially, relationally, professionally. Where are areas that are lacking or where you feel stressed out? And the reason why it's important to identify those areas, because once we know what it is, I like to say that stress comes when you don't have a plan, right? So when you have areas of unfulfillment and you come home at night and you're sitting in the quietness of yourself and you're reflecting on life, that's when that mental chatter starts, right? And studies continue to show that 85% of our mental chatter is negative. Can you believe that? 85%, that's a battle. Every day, all day, whether it's about someone else or about ourselves. Mental chatter are the thoughts that come in between intentional thoughts, but they most likely come at night while you're trying to sleep, or in moments where you have this problem, again, that you haven't created a solution for, and so you go down this rabbit hole of possibilities with some of them being negative. The Good Old Girl Network origin story is that I grew up as the rule follower and the one that was expected to say please and thank you, and many of you have heard this story. What that led to was, even though the expectations of me were always on the positive note, it still created a thing that I wanted to live into. And it wasn't until my mid-30s that I finally thought to myself, what is it about this great life, that has me still feeling unfulfilled. And it wasn't necessarily the people that were in my life, it was how I was living my life. It had way more to do with, oh, I should do this. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I'm expected to do this. And sometimes you don't even need to say them, it's just how you behave. Think about the number of times where you say, I have to go to this event. You don't. You actually don't ever have to go to another event. You don't have to go to work. I said this to a couple people over the last few days, and it did not sit very well. People say, I have to go pick up the kids. You actually don't. You actually could never go pick up the kids if you chose. So instead of saying have to, we're going to start leaning into I'm going to. But how we're going to do that is to keep our why in focus, right? So please take today's day one of finding clarity in where it is that you're looking to be fulfilled. Again, it could be in a variety of relationships. It could be in the work that you're doing. It could be in watching too much news and all of the noise that is going on in your head right now. But where in your life are you feeling unfulfilled? And maybe there's a lot of them. Maybe you wrote down a ton of them. The next thing to do is what we're going to do through the Good Old Girls Network is to start to dig even deeper into those and to gather our whys. Once you have an understanding of what it is that you want to work on, we're going to provide tools, interviews, community. There's going to be a wonderful community, several communities within the Good Old Girls Network. There'll be a larger community, but then there will be smaller ones that you can join based upon your interests, discussions you'd like to have, connections that you'd like to make, understandings that you'd like to have. There will be videos and all sorts of goodies. There's 3 membership levels, so there's free, which is obviously very limited. There's a premium and then premium plus. The premium is $360 a year, $30 a month. Our goal is to wow you and to over deliver. This is not supposed to break the bank. And I understand that $360 a year is a lot for some people, and maybe the goal is to get to a point where you can join. The Premium Plus is $960 a year, and that's because it includes group coaching monthly. And that's just $50 a month for coaching. Now, you know that's a deal. Dee, are there any comments or is anybody willing to share? Let me ask this, not to put anybody on Front Street, but is there anybody, 1, 2 people that are willing to share areas that they may have thought of where they wanted to be more fulfilled? Drop those in the chat and we'll take a look at them. And you might even be able to see it from your phone, Dee.
They're just saying hello.
Huh?
All hellos.
Oh, hello.
And all excited.
Me too. So dig into the clarity. There's a Bible scripture that says, in all thy getting, get understanding, and you don't have to be religious or even spiritual. When we have understanding of things, then we're less emotional about them. One of the things that I talk about in terms of understanding and identifying your core values, which in the onboarding process, so there are certain things and modules that you will have to go through to onboard to the community. Otherwise, the Good Old Girls Network won't make sense to you. There's some levels of understanding that you will gain about yourself. And then there are some ways that we are going to expect for people to operate in the community. But those expectations will be explicitly stated. And you can sign on and say you agree with the expectations, you can meet the expectations, or it may not be the organization for you, and that's okay. We are looking for women who are ready to identify the better in life, right? So in those quiet moments when you're reflecting on your day and your relationships and your profession, that there's a satisfaction, right? One of the things I say is we can fill our lives with many things, and we do, right? We fill our lives with events and with people and conversations and Netflix and all these things, oftentimes without the intentionality of understanding our why. So we're watching a show because someone said we should watch it. But if we had a further understanding around where and how we're looking to be fulfilled, we're even going to be more intentional about the minutia, about the little things. And this is that, along with identifying our core values, understanding the label liberation, stuff that we'll get into when the Good Old Girls Network is launched. But those sorts of things increase our confidence and how we walk on this earth. Some of you have said to me, I'm not exactly sure all who's on here yet, but I will look in a moment. Some of you have said to me, I just wish sometimes I could have you in my ear. Well, the Good Old Girls Network is going to be like that. There will be a myriad of circumstances and events and things where you will have the opportunity to engage with me, engage with other people who are embarking on this work. And again, this really is about the community that we're building of fulfilled women. When you are fulfilled in the areas that I'm talking about, parentally, financially, aesthetically, relationally, emotionally, spiritually, right? All the ways, all the aspects of life, then your focus can be on your goals. Then your focus can be walking in your path instead of having all these emotional disturbances. We have one area in the Good Old Girls Network called GROW, G-R-O, and it is for getting rid of offense. Getting rid of offense. We have become incredibly prickly, and I understand the reason why. A lot of it has to do with our lack of understanding of who we are. And so someone might say, you know, Monica, you just seem all over the place. And I might say, I'm not, right? What is that emotional reaction? Because what is it about someone saying I'm all over the place that then caused that emotional reaction? But if I have understanding of how I operate, right? And let's say variety and options are actually values of mine. So I like that no 2 days look the same for me, where someone else might like routine. So someone might be looking at my life thinking, oh, she just seems like she's here and there and everywhere, but you're reading it from your value system. The reason why I'm not going to be emotionally triggered by it is because I'm clear about how and why I operate. And so whether or not you meant it as a slight, that's not how I'm ever going to receive it. And we want an army of women who are so solid in themselves in every area that you're immovable when it comes to things like that, that it's hard to offend you because what you're listening for is data and not the emotion of what someone is saying to you, if that makes sense. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to be this emotionless group of women. No, you're going to feel things, but you're going to be able to put things in their proper place faster, if that makes sense. So that we're not getting bogged down and held back by ourselves. We're going to get out of our own way. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get out of our own way. Any questions or comments or still hellos in the chat?
Are the journals included in membership?
Good question. Yes, the journals are included in membership. Thank you for that question. Can you scroll up on there? On the pad. Yeah. Do use 2 fingers to scroll up. That's okay.
That's it.
I'm gonna pull it up on here in a second.
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit more about the goals, the beliefs, and the values. I want to give you as much information as possible before the launch, February 3rd, during Women's History Month. Again, this will start as an online community. And when we have a critical mass of people in a particular city, then we will start to have personal gatherings that will have guides and that will be led by the overarching mission, vision, and values of the Good Old Girls Network. Until then, we will be having online communities, and obviously you all can gather where you are. Get your merch. You know, when you see someone with a GOGN on their shirt or their hat or their pen or their cup, then you know the journey they're on. And that, I'm so excited for that when we recognize each other out and about, because we know about the level of fulfillment that we're trying to attain, that we'll have a similar language, in order to speak to one another again so that we are fighting against offense and wanting to be offended, but instead of putting our emotion on other people because someone said something to offend us, we can tend to our own emotions to figure out what is that. And then we will also have a group of women that we can explore it with safely because everybody will have the same language. Make sense? Okay. All right. As I mentioned earlier, it's huge for me, for people, for us, for the good old girls, to eliminate the word I should do, the term I have to. And that the reason you're doing it is because of an external expectation. Instead, the moment you feel like you have to do something, like you should do something, or like you're only doing it because you're expected to do it, pause. Dig in and figure out if there's another reason. For instance, you may not feel like going to work, right? But you will say, oh, I have to go to work. There is something about the term have to that sends our that takes away our power because it suggests that we don't have a choice. When in reality, we know we do. We don't have to go to work, but what's the consequence of that? So if your why for going to work is that you need the financial stability, then there's your why. So instead of saying I have to go to work, just say I'm going to work. I'm choosing to go to work because my financial stability matters. And in that, there is power. In that power, you can also decide that you're going to try to find another place of work where you are more fulfilled so that those moments of, oh, what is it that's making you say, I have to do that thing? Because you're giving away your power, but what is it that's making you feel like you have to, and how do we get rid of that thing? That's where we want to start to focus, is when our whys aren't strong enough to help us to get rid of the have to. So if I'm saying, and I'm using kids a lot because I feel like in our society, obviously people say, well, you have to take care of your kids. You actually don't. But you're choosing to, and whatever that reason is, make it strong so that you can do it without, you can do it not begrudgingly. And I know a lot of times it's not about you not actually wanting to go pick up your children or be with your children. It's the fact that maybe you're exhausted, right? So then how do we fix that? So that goes back to the what is making us have that sensation? How do we identify that? And then how do we get our why in place? Make sense?
That's the question.
Yes, what's the question?
How do I know which exciting, passionate thing to prioritize, especially if what pays the most is not what makes me the happiest?
Okay, so there was a time when mentors used to say to me, do what you love and the money will come. And I called BS because I would try to think of all these careers where that wouldn't be the case. But the reality is there are multiple ways to make money in things that you love. So for instance, if you love teaching, right? And there may be some teachers in the chat, and maybe the teachers have said, I make a good enough salary, whatever the things are. But if for you want to make more, there are more things for you to get involved in around teaching that will also bring you multiple streams of revenue. Because I'll tell you what, the look in the rearview mirror can be really painful when we're constantly doing things for the outcomes of money. And trust me, I understand that money, it allows us to do a variety of things. But when your spirit is not okay, it's not a great substitute in those quiet moments that I'm talking about, right? Sure, it can provide you momentary happiness when you buy a new thing or you go on a vacation or you do something fun, but when you have to return to a life that is not your own and is not fulfilled, it becomes not worth it. And therein lies regret that comes to us in the future. So there will be tools and resources for you to explore. I'm not telling you what to do. This website will have a lot of questions and exploration for you to get to your own answers. Because I suspect that some of you, much like where I was at some point in time, have either forgotten the sound of your own voice, or you're not sure because you've not answered your own questions enough in your voice, with your values in tow, with your belief system at the helm, with your fulfillment in place. And so these noises, or these inputs, come from all over the place, and they cause us to feel overwhelmed because they are not rooted in who we are. So that it's easy to, oh yeah, that sounds great. That's an amazing opportunity. Yes, I'll do that. It might be high visibility. It might be high paying. It might be the dream job that you said you always wanted. But if you're not identifying the why, if you don't understand what your core values are, if you're still living a life according to labels, if you have all these things that are still given to you by society, you will not find peace or fulfillment. The call has to come from inside the house, if you know what I mean, right? Any other questions before I move on? Okay. Thank you for that question. Feel free also to reach out to me. The Good Old Girls Network is now on IG under the GOGN. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook. We're still building the community. We're probably going to make some adjustments, but for now, we're probably going to go on to Fanbase and to Blue Sky as well. And we certainly, our main platform will be here on YouTube for a variety of reasons that I won't get into right now. Any other comments or questions? Okay. So I want to spend a few minutes talking about the belief system of the Good Old Girls Network. Again, this organization won't be for everyone, but there is a set of beliefs that will help you navigate the community. You will revisit these in your onboarding process and in the modules that are required for you to enter into the community. The first belief is that labels are limiting, right? They prevent us from seeing the entirety of a person or a situation. So we are trying to live in our community as label liberated. What does that mean? That means that when we're describing people or circumstances, we're going to do our very best to use data instead of labels. So instead of saying, oh, that was just awful, what is it that you mean? Let's break open that word awful. What is it that you don't like about it? And why do we want to do this? Because when someone uses a label, and I receive the label, I'm putting that through my own filter. I don't know what you mean when you say awful. I know what I mean. But once you label something, you don't have any more questions, right? If you label someone as an awful person, or as a liar, or as a hard worker, or smart, you have less questions because you've already put it in the box and think that you know. When we use data, instead of saying someone is smart, I could say that person started and sold 2 businesses. Now, internally, you can call that what you want, but it gives context and it gives data in order for us to make decisions. If I'm saying something is awful, but I don't have your context, something that you may think is awful, I may think is amazing. And maybe that's just the type of person that I would want to hire. Because maybe for you, the awful is the person comes in late every day. Well, maybe in the world that I work in, I don't mind a flexible schedule. Right? It's a very simple example, but the point is that labels limit us from seeing the entirety. So in this community, we are going to try very hard to use data and not labels. That's number one, because they're very limiting. No one owes you anything except explicitly stated in a signed contract, or if someone says, I'm going to do this, will you do this? But too many times we have expectations of people based upon our own belief system, based upon our own values, and they are expectations that people have no idea that we have of them. If I brought you a donut every day for the last 5 years, on 5 years and 1 day, I don't owe you a donut, and you shouldn't be upset with me for not bringing it. I did it because I wanted to do it, but I don't owe it to you. So when we have these expectations, I've been there for that person and I just thought they would, well, that's data, right? You had an expectation. Did you explicitly let them know, or did you assume, well, it's reasonable, right? It makes sense to you. And it might not make sense to the other person. And we are doing this so much in life. It's the conversations in friend groups that where you're having meetings behind friends' backs because this person didn't do something that you expected them to do when they don't owe it to you. So we have to figure out why we're having these expectations, and if we're going to have them, we must communicate them. No one owes you anything outside of an explicitly stated agreement. That's a hard pill for some to swallow. We are living on that in this community. Offense requires that we look inward for understanding. If someone says that women who wear turtlenecks are very insecure, if I feel offended by that, I only need to explore and hear, well, what is it? Do I also believe that I'm not that intelligent? Do I believe the thing that the person said about me? Maybe a little bit if I'm offended. Otherwise, it's laughable. Otherwise, I'm not offended because it doesn't apply to me. If I'm offended, then I have to figure out what is it that hurts so badly, and then I have to deal with it. Now, that does not mean that you never address a person. So if someone kept saying it, every time I had whatever clothes I had on, that person wanted to take a shot. Well, people who wear silver jewelry, I don't know, studies show or the said, I may say, you know what, it's interesting. Each time I'm in communication with you, I notice that you pick something that I have and you mention something about the person not being intelligent. And I'm just curious, what is it that makes you offer that information, right? So now you're calling them in or out, however the language is that you want to use, but in a way that's not emotional because you've resolved it, right? You've resolved it. One of my favorite quotes, which you will see if you do the 90-day journal, which is different from the journal where you're going to write down your notes when you join the Good Old Girls Network, but there's a 90-day to fulfillment journal that I'm starting on February 1st. Feel free to join me. That actually is on Amazon, but one of my favorite quotes is, I have settled it for myself. Therefore, flattery and criticism go down the same drain, and I am yet free. That means if you like me, cool. If you don't like me, cool. Because I'm operating so authentically that however you perceive that is up to you. But my job is not to then morph so that you're okay with me. In the same way, the Good Old Girls Network, right? It's not my job to convince every woman that she needs to be in it. We're going to talk about what we're trying to do, and there have already been at least 289 of you who have said, please, yes, I'm looking for that. Others of you will hear this and you will say, not my jam. And that's okay. That doesn't mean anything's wrong with the Good Old Girls Network. It just means that we're not a good fit. That's okay. All right, number 4. Should prevents doing what we would do if left to our own guiding principles. Should places pressure on us to act from external stimuli and leaves us more susceptible to stress and regret. I could certainly list a few things that people said I should do that I did that I regretted because I didn't have my why intact. It could have been a mentor who meant well and it had some level of success and say, you know what you should do? You should join this, or you should meet with this particular person. I was simply going on their credibility and not on my personal why. When we don't have our understanding of ourselves and what it is that the goals that we are trying to achieve and our why intact, is very easy for us to get lost on this journey. I am a witness who has gotten back on track. Number 5, mental chatter makes up stories. I've talked about this. If you've heard anything I've done, you know how I feel about mental chatter. You have to tame the mental chatter. And all that is offering yourself balance, right? Mental chatter is just taking you down a rabbit hole that says this thing is probably going to be true. All you do is offer yourself, well, what if it's not, right? If I don't get all this work done by today, I'm probably not going to get the promotion. Okay, well, a couple of things. One, you couldn't get all the work done. Two, you could negotiate a different date. Three, okay, what happens if you don't get the promotion today? Might you get the promotion another time? The pain is in the resistance, right? So dealing with where we are is not an acceptance in terms of I'm not going to try to do any better, but it's not resisting the reality of what is right now, right? So tame the mental chatter by offering yourself the other side of the story, whether it's good or bad. When we have expectations and our mental chatter takes us down, it's going to be fine, it's going to be okay, it's going to be great, and then it isn't. But we've held so tightly to this expectation that it's going to be great, and then it's not as great. The fall in our spirit, oftentimes, that emotional turbulence is huge. So we have to offer ourselves the opportunity that something different is at least possible. Even though we're doing everything we can to get the outcome we want, there are other things. When people say failure is not an option, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that's okay. Because failure is not an indication of whether you can achieve the thing or your ability to do it, right? Like Dr. Jeff Howard says, it just means that your strategy is off. And so you just need to look at the strategy and how to fix it. Not brightness, just went down. Okay, mental chatter. Number 6, and there's 10 of them. 10 beliefs, you will see these again during your onboarding process. Comparison truly is the thief of joy. Comparison need only be made against our own standards, priorities, and values. So if you want to be number one in some field, which sure, if that's your goal, right? Then you may set your standards based upon where someone else achieved this. So now your personal standard is this thing. There's no need to keep comparing yourself to that. You're now working off of these standards that you've created. Because when we're looking this way, we can't be looking this way. The more we're comparing, that means that I'm now looking at you and assessing your journey, and I'm missing the opportunity to be walking my own path. And you know what happens when we do that? We end up in the same place. And then we're watching that person progress because we haven't been working towards the thing that we're supposed to be working towards. Number 7, we talked about expectations or stories that we make up based upon mental chatter. Everything from this moment forward is a figment of your imagination. You have no idea what's going to happen in the next 5 seconds, the next 1 second. You can guess, but you don't know. And so keep those expectations at bay. Perspective offers expansion of thought and an opportunity for greater understanding. The more perspective we have, the more we understand. That is about not landing on conclusions with your little bit of information, right? Putting it through your filter and saying, well, this must be true. Stay curious. What is it that I don't know? What more could I glean from the situation? What's another way of looking at this? So that we start to crumble our conclusions, and that makes us curious. Now we can learn more about the situation. It keeps us from being hasty in relationships, personally and professionally. Number 9, identifying our core values and establishing our standards are critical. They help us to navigate our inner validation and feedback mechanism. That goes back to, you like what I'm saying? Cool. You think it's dumb? Cool. Right? It's okay. It's okay because I've settled these things for myself. I know what my core values are and I live by them. So the places that I operate from are always authentic, no matter how you feel about them, no matter how the external world feels about them. Now that makes some people uncomfortable. It makes some people uncomfortable when you are that rooted in yourself because they want to have more input. They want to manipulate you just a little bit more. When you are rooted in your core values, those people will start to fall by the wayside. They will get tired of not being able to manipulate you anymore, and people will start to rise up around you, hopefully in the Good Old Girls Network, that will align with your values and be able to walk with you on this journey to fulfillment that we're on. Number 10, we are responsible for our own emotions. That is a critical one because as you operate in this community, and remember, you're getting to fulfillment. We're not joining this already fulfilled, maybe in some areas, and I'm not saying you're starting from zero, but we're on a journey to fulfillment. And that means we have work to do. And some of that work will cause us to feel uncomfortable. And sometimes people may say things about themselves, that triggers you. Don't respond to it. It has nothing to do with them. Let's do the inner work. We're going to have a set of questions. There's going to be a formula, so to speak, that we return to every time we have this emotional turbulence. We're going to work through it. We're going to put ourselves in that loop. We're going to work through it. I know what that is. I know exactly what that is. And once we have that understanding, now we can walk more confidently and we don't have to be as emotionally triggered. Questions, comments? Thank you all for being here with, I'm going to say, maybe such little notice, but this is probably the hardest that I've ever worked for something, and it feels amazing.
Positive feedback. Thank you. So hashtag stay curious. We are responsible for our own emotions. Great advice. Amen. Amen to taming the mental chatter. All
Yes.
positive.
Yes. Okay. Phenomenal. We're going deep. That's what I want you to understand in the Good Old Girls Network. There's not going to be any kind of click-em tests, if you know what I mean. And those are fine. I think those are great ways to leverage what you're about to do, the work that you're going to do in the Good Old Girls Network. You're going to do a fulfillment assessment. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions to start to understand the areas, the top 1 to 2, we're going to say top 1 to 3 areas that you want to work on. I suggest that you pick one, but sometimes people, like myself, like to do a little bit more. But if you find that you are watering down one area where you're really trying to reach a higher level of fulfillment, I would suggest that you put those other 2 on the shelf for a moment and just keep doing the work in the areas that you are looking to achieve fulfillment.
When your emotions do get the best of you, how do you bring yourself back?
Pause. Just pause. You will never regret stopping, right? Because if what you have to say or what you want to express is still there after you do that inner work, it's still going to be there, right? There's no rush to get it out. The biggest thing is that no one is responsible for the emotions that you're experiencing. That's a belief. You're responsible for your own emotions. The question becomes, where did it come from? Where did it come from, and how do you go to the root of that so that at a minimum you have understanding of it? So that if somebody says, I like to feel knowledgeable. We're going to talk about sensations, right? There are ways that we all like to feel. Some people like to feel included. Some people like to feel loved. Some people like to feel knowledgeable. There's all these sensations. One of the ways that I like to feel is knowledgeable. So there was a time where if somebody questioned something that I know that I knew, you would get a visceral emotional reaction from me until I understood that they were confronting the sensation, right? That they were triggering something in me by taking the sensation from me, but that's not really what was happening. I had to figure out what is it. One, you can't be knowledgeable about everything. Just because you like to feel the sensation doesn't mean you're going to feel it all the time, but it can become a drug. If you're a person who likes to feel included, you may start to friend people or go or do things, join groups where you feel included, but those aren't your people. They're not value aligned with you because you're seeking out that sensation. When you align your values, you're going to start to find people where you get the sensation in a way that is authentic to you.
Will this journey also help us identify our core values? Same question.
Yes.
Second part to that question, are the things that fulfill me also equate to my core values?
The things that fulfill you, not necessarily. The things that fulfill you have more to do with your why. Your core values are like, you know what I call it? You have a GPS. That's your geographic positioning system. It tells you where you are and it gives you coordinates to get to your destination. Your values go into your TPS, and that's your truth positioning system. So what it does is your values tell you how you're going to get there. So let's say you value thoughtfulness, excellence, kindness, I don't know. Let's just go with those three. You're gonna identify your top 5. That means that the way you do things is going to be in line with what you believe. Let me actually use my own, it's easier for me. One of the things that I highly value is consideration. So that means that when I'm in the bathroom stall, when I'm done washing my hands, I'm gonna wipe the basin. Why? Because it's natural for me to consider the next person coming. If I'm in a space, I'm not going to be on speakerphone because you may not want to hear what it is that I'm saying, but that's because I value consideration. Now, we're not going to go too deeply into this right now because it's going to be on your onboarding process. You will identify your core values, but one of the things that you have to understand is that your core values make so much sense to you that you're going to think everybody should have them. What you're going to figure out in the community is who aligns and shares your values and who does not. You may think that person is cookie crunch cool, as my sister says, but maybe the way they operate is not aligned with your values, and that is okay. That might mean that you all can only walk the journey for a short period of time together, where you will find other women in the community where you can walk longer parts of the journey. And I don't want you to mistake, but again, all of this will come in the community, this understanding. Just because a person shares your experience does not mean they share your values. You could find someone who, I don't know, got laid off from their job, has 2 small children, some whatever the things are. Oh my gosh, I gotta meet her. Great. Reach out to her, connect with her in the community. Share your values. Do that off the rip. Now, if you want, your values will be shown in your profile. So that's another way that you can decide if you're going to connect with people or if you want to be more curious about another woman in the community is based upon not just her background and her hobbies, but also her core values. So that you start to align with people who don't just share your experience, but can actually share a journey to your fulfillment, if that makes sense.
Thank you, that makes sense.
Okay.
That's what she thinks is.
Phenomenal, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The last thing that I want to do, but feel free to add more questions. I'll be happy to answer questions for a few minutes. I want to talk about what fulfillment means in this context, right? So, Dee, can you pass me my cup over there? On my next live, I'm gonna have a little table right here. If you all only knew what happened right before this live, we're gonna talk about that another time. Okay, so anyway, here's a cup. It's a good old girls network cup. It's some swag that you too can have. I could fill this cup with beer, right? I don't like beer. Like, it might quench my thirst a little bit. It might have some of the bubbles that I want, but pound for pound, I don't want it in my cup. So my cup is full, but it is not fulfilled because fulfilled means satisfying. So what we want to do is we want to look at the different cups of life, our professional life, our aesthetic life, our mental health life, our emotional life, right? These are all the cups. And we want to make sure that what we're putting into those various cups is satisfying. So that when you're done drinking from that cup, you say, that was good. That you don't drink it and you go, right, I'll get it down and you're done, you're burping, I shouldn't have had that. Your cup was full, okay? That's our lives. It's full of things. It's full of people. It's full of events. It's full of us talking. But is it fulfilling? Is what we said fulfilling? Are the things we listen to fulfilling? Are the people we're hanging with fulfilling? Are the decisions that we're making about our life just filling it up? right? We were looking back on it and we go, oh, if I had it to do over, let's start here with the intentionality that comes from our core. It's going to enhance our relationships in every area. It's going to give us a more stable foundation, right? Especially our core values. You know how people in physical training will say, when you strengthen your core, it strengthens your physical stability, right? You're more stable, you won't fall as much, you're more balanced and centered. When you identify your core values, there's a mental and emotional stability that comes with it because you have clarity. Day one, figure out those areas of fulfillment. That's still your homework. But when you have clarity around that, you are less high and less low. You can be excited, but without the negative, visceral, emotional reaction that comes when we don't understand ourselves, if that makes sense. So we are, this fulfillment thing is so critical because women are still, as much as we're talking to each other about things, in a lot of cases, we're still posturing because it really has to do with our understanding of self, right? At the end of the day, have you ever spoken to somebody and they're listening intently, but what they feed you back is 2 channels off from what you meant? Like, they didn't get it. And now you still feel unfulfilled. You weren't heard, you weren't valued, you weren't seen, and they tried. That wasn't your person for that situation. That's another thing that will come from this is you will know your personnel. So you won't be calling upon the person who's good in crisis management to be the person whose shoulder you cry on because they may not be the one to stop and give you tissues and tell you it's going to be okay. You might be calling upon the person that's ready to go. Well, what are we going to do about it? And you're like, I don't need that right now. Know your personnel, but you got to know yourself first. Because once I know what I need, then I know where to go. Once I know why I'm going, then I know how to go. Right? It's going to be good, y'all. It's going to.
How do we purchase swag?
How do you purchase swag? Okay, so right now, I'm doing swag giveaways. So I was going to ask a couple of questions at the end and have people answer them in the chat. And then if you answer them correctly, or kind of correctly, I'll send you some swag. Swag will be on the website, but we have, I don't have a little swag bag here, do I? No. So we have fans, we have coffee cups, we have wine glasses. Because, we're trying to fill all kinds of cups with all kinds of things. We have t-shirts. What else do we have? We have tote bags. Okay, so any other questions? Because then I'll ask a few questions so we can wrap. All right, so here's a couple of questions that I have for you. Name. Oh, yes, thank you. Okay, this is going to be a little quiz. What is the mission of the Good Old Girls Network? To the best of your ability, what is the mission of the Good Old Girls Network? Does it pop up automatically?
Automatic.
I'm gonna get. Oh, you don't have to go like this.
No, it'll show up automatic.
Oh, okay. All right. Are you all thinking about? Okay, here we go.
To help women reach fulfillment.
Okay. All right. Keep dropping them in if you're thinking about them. Thinking about it. Any others?
Not yet.
Okay. Next question is, 2 more questions. Next question is, name a belief of the Good Old Girls Network. Name one belief of the Good Old Girls Network.
Do you want to hear another response?
Yes, please.
To bring together women that want to fulfill their lives and to have space to share.
Thank you.
No labels.
No labels, that's a belief. Ding, 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 yes.
Labels off the table. To assist women and finding what is their fulfillment, discovering your why.
Okay.
Ooh, people are thinking.
Okay.
Yes, they
That's
are.
the mission. Love it. All right, keep dropping those beliefs in. I will contact you about swag.
This is exciting.
Let's see. All right. This is less of a quiz question, but name a reason why you would want to be more fulfilled. That's the last question. Name a reason why you personally would want to be more fulfilled.
Labels are limiting.
Labels are limiting, that's the belief. Why do you personally, why would you want to be more fulfilled? I don't know, that was supposed to be on, thank goodness that happened at the very end. But that was supposed to be on focus.
I want to live my best life.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. There is more and there is better. So many times because of societal expectations, we settle into this normalcy that isn't normal. It's just that it's been put upon us. What else we do?
I could help more people if I'm fulfilled.
Absolutely. I promise you, that's going to be one of the biggest things that comes from this army of women who are achieving or on the journey to fulfillment is the dispersion into society and the impact, the ripple effect that you're going to have on other people.
Live life with less stress.
Live life with less stress. Yes, dear.
Freedom, freedom, freedom.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Because stress actually is bad for our hearts. It's bad for us. And again, stress comes when we don't have a plan. So we're going to be not only making plans towards fulfillment, but when we're identifying those areas, we're going to figure out where our obstacles are and how do we move on.
To show up as the best version of me.
Yes. And you know what's interesting? So I love these answers, and I'm looking forward to the new language that you're going to have to describe the thing I think you're feeling. You're going to have a new set of terms that specifically identifies when you say better life, when you say a more fulfilled life, you're going to have more specific language to be able to express that and what that means. So if you, shameless plug, if you want to go on the 90-day fulfillment journey, pick up I'll put it, the link in the comments, but you can have that from Amazon. It's just the Good Old Girls 90-day journey journal towards fulfillment. You can grab that. And tomorrow we will be on day 2. I will be back here at 7 p.m. to discuss what you thought of today's homework. So hopefully you still will identify those areas where you want to be fulfilled. And then we will embark on day 2. Tomorrow the video will go up at 6 a.m. tomorrow, so you can avail yourself of that. And thank you for being here. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And let's go forward to fulfillment.
Amazing.
Oh wait, I can't end it. Hold on. That's fine. I just want to know how I'm assuming.